Hello, hello. It is me here, Scott from Art of the Genre with Hal from 13th Warlock, and we are looking to test our new streaming show about gaming. This one specifically on Magic and probably Fast Magic. So you can ask us any questions if you have to be around here, and we can try to answer those as best of our ability. That's all I've got on it. Do you have anything to add there, Hal? I try to see if I can find a link here.
No, not too much. It's the very beginning stages of we don't know what. So we'll find we're going to find out. Where it is going to show up on Discord? Is it going to show up on YouTube? How are people going to be able to ask questions and interact with us? We're shooting in the dark here, but that's okay. We'll hit something.
Yeah, that's
we're shooting in the dark here, but that's okay. There's playback. We'll hit something.
Okay, I think I've got our link.
Okay.
So I'll put that. See if I can paste it here. Yeah, so it's in the chat there. Hal, you can probably we can try to move it over to Discords and get a allow everyone on Discord to see it if we can. I'll put it in announcements.
I wish that I was able to kind of share my screen, but I don't think that works.
To share a screen?
Yeah, on Discord. Like I can show my screen on Discord, but I don't think that will work. When I put it up there before, when we were trying to get on here, one of my guys was on for the Discord, and he was like, "Oh, I can't see anything." So let me I'll at least post it up into the link so that people can check us out on YouTube. So announcements. All right, go.
Send it out to my people too. And
all right, there we go. Oh, it's the worst picture of us ever. You got your eyes closed. You look like I don't know what.
I look like I'm trying to do something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's going on in my computer? Anyway, I guess we're live, and if people show up, they show up. But anyway, we'll have it recorded on YouTube too, so people can take a look at it. But now past the nonsense
questions or something, are they going to be able to ask through YouTube? Do they have to come here?
If they're viewing it on YouTube, we have the ability to see the comments that'll come up on the YouTube. Okay. It'll be on your. Can you see that on your right? The comments.
I guess I would have to go to YouTube.
Actually, you're on stream. It should come up right here.
Oh, it'll come up on this thing.
Yeah. It's on the right hand side. It should say comments.
Comments. Yeah.
And then if you click on that, it should allow. Are you seeing what I'm showing?
Yeah.
And then if somebody comments, it'll be down there, and we can answer the questions. But nevertheless, today we're supposed to be talking about Magic, your favorite subject to try to beat me up about on the fast system.
You know what? So, I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I like it in as much as I like everything about Fast is that it's an awesome collection of Legos that you can throw out on the table and build whatever you want with it. And I think that the Magic system lends itself to that as well, if not better than any other aspect of a Fast. And I've used the Magic system. I like to kind of shape the magic of the game to whatever it is that I'm playing. So I'm doing Star Frontiers right now through Fast, and they don't have a magic system per se, but they did come out with the psionics with the later books of Zebulon's Guide. So I'm mirroring that, but instead of using the fast magic system straight from the fast book. I'm trying to change it a little bit and make it more like the original Star Frontiers. Not that it was better, but I'm trying to keep the flavor of the game intact, and it's working really, really well for me.
So when you're talking, so obviously in the fast, if people don't know fast, the magic system is actually the magic / psionic system. So they work off the exact same rule set. And if you've got a light damage spell in fast, that's a spell, like you could call it magic missile if you wanted to, but it's light. Let's say that in psionics, it's the exact same thing. It would be a mind missile that does light damage. So in that standpoint, because it's one of the things I looked at when I was doing fast, was a lot of systems, especially science fiction, use psionics, but they're so ambiguous or hard to use or hard to implement that people like to just flush psionics away. But in this standpoint, it just mirrors magic exactly in the things that it does. So that's what made it nice and easy to take it over into something like Star Frontiers that had a base. But Star Frontiers, like Zebulon's Guide, it's pretty intense on what you were doing with I guess basically having spells kind of as psionics, because there are a lot of different things that you can do. Are you designing specific spells to go off of the fast system, light, medium, heavy, and how they're used or how they're learned?
Yeah. What I'm doing is they have a list of spells, list of psionic disciplines, and they break them
Yes.
up into minor and major disciplines.
Right.
So what I've done is I have taken the disciplines, the minor and the major disciplines, and I've made a fast conversion of it. So I think they have one that's called like bolt, where you shoot a mental bolt out of
Right.
your mind, and it impacts your opponent for damage. So that was the solo strike. So I took that spell in fast from that damage quad and moved that over in and used the mechanics of it, but made its own type of spell per se. And I don't allow them to use additional CCV points to like spread it out over more people, or it is what it is. It's what it's meant to do in Star Frontiers is what it does in Fast, and that's it. Now I can increase it, so like they can pick that up as at first level as a major discipline, but then when they hit third level, they have the opportunity, they can advance it now from light to medium, and now it will do some more damage. Or now when I move it into um, heavy, then
7. Yeah.
yeah, I might let them now expand it and have that target multiple opponents or something like that, you know.
Right. Okay. So you are allowing the area effects, but it has to be at a certain level, or they have to achieve those, kind of like you would third and seventh for medium heavy, but instead you're doing a different type of thing that you get at those levels, I guess, for that.
You know what I'm almost doing, and it's kind of contrary. It kind of is contrary to the whole principle of fast. Is I'm kind of putting the brakes on fast and slowing it down. Like the system is real eloquent. Like you can look at the magic, and it's blocked up into quad areas, and you've managed to cover like 90% of all the spells in those 4 blocked off areas that you have. With the variance of targeting individual people and area effects, like you cover the whole gambit there. But for something like Dungeons and Dragons or something where the accumulating of spells is a big deal, like if you're playing a magic user, illusionist, or whatever, you kind of want some of that chunkiness in there. And so rather than say, okay, you have a solo, you have the solo strike spell, but you can spend more CV and you can modify that a little bit. I think what I would do, I haven't had a chance to run Dungeons and Dragons, but I played in your campaign,
Right.
is I would say, okay, well, no, we're not going to do that. You have a magic missile spell, and this is what it is. And it's a solo, strike spell. It's a light damage, and that's it. And then maybe at third level, I would allow like the magic missile spell to increase and affect more people, but put a limit on it. Like you can target one extra person for every 2 levels, so that it mirrors. So you're keeping that D&D feel.
Right. I mean, that's the essence of it. When you look at the quads and when you look at the quads and what they give you, yeah, I mean, it's pretty open, right? And if you just want to play it wide open, you can do crazy stuff with that spell system. But if you want to do direct to D&D, you're absolutely right. You give a player a spell book, and they've got to find those spells. And you never find solo strike, you find magic missile. And that's the only spell you have, right? And it can grow with you or not. But then you could find a fireball, which might have area effect aspects to it, or lightning bolt that could be forked, or anything like that. And you just build those spells specifically, and then hand them out to the characters to know that that's what's in their book and that's what they can use, instead of just being wide open with solo strike from the very, very base book. And you see the same thing when I'm looking at something like Stormbringer, and the ability to you can only manifest certain things in summonings. You can't really do that. Or in Conan, you might get one spell and that's it, and it kind of grows with you if you've sacrificed somebody, which I've seen. And we've got a comment here from R. Jones that said, I just drooled a little thinking about converting Star Wars. Listen, Star Wars is freaking fun and fast. It really is. I played it for an entire week in early August, just to experiment with the system, and also doing our mass combat system, our cinematic mass combat in it. And then we had to run Jedi, and we wanted to see how Jedi worked in it, and how those Jedi powers manifested just like they do for a superhero campaign, where superheroes get superpower points. Jedi get basically force power points, and they can use those in building out a Jedi. And I have a lot of notes on that were taken, and you can get those. I'll probably be doing a video on it, and then posting it up here on the YouTube, and you can, and on the Discord as well, I'll offer those notes if you want to see how we converted Star Wars, how it works. Then you can go from there. But it is really, really fun, and it works really, really well. Especially if the cinematic mass combat was neat because we did it in space, so you can see how somebody in an X-wing can navigate like the Battle of Endor and just be whipping through everything, and then you're kind of making sense in your mind. But yeah, I mean, the Jedi are very much like spells. We wanted to see initially if they were going to be like spell powers or they're going to be like superpowers, but they ended up going with a superpower ability on it. But not to take away from magic, which we're talking about today. But yeah. And we got Lane Landis here. He says Shadowrun 4th edition has a good magic system. I don't know. I've got Shadowrun first. Of course, I played when it came out.
Right. First edition.
First edition, I played that, and then we transitioned to second edition. And the edition I have right now is that we just played a couple years ago. I'm trying to see. I think it's 5th. If I'm going to be, and it's a pretty cool magic system. Again, I mean, but the one thing you look at with Shadowrun is, well, at least initially, it was a lot of dice. How many dice you can win? I get 32 dice in my pool, and that's something that Fast is not necessarily like. But it would be interesting to see the transition, something like Shadowrun into Fast. Now, obviously, when we play Lorem Femina, which is the city in space, it's kind of cyberpunk. So we've kind of done some things with it, but I really want to do some more just to see how magic or psionics would work with that. Yeah.
I think that people need to know going in, if you're going to do something with magic or psionics, somebody's got to do some work. That's kind of the key with Fast. It's the best system ever for doing your own thing. But when you do your own thing, that involves putting some work into it. So if you are going to do like a Star Wars campaign, and you're setting things up from the ground up where they're starting out as Padawans or something like that, that's the best way to do it, because now the DM can work with the player they can look at the fast rules and the magic, and they can say, okay, well, let me do some telekinesis stuff, or let me do some of that mind trick stuff. And now you are writing these force abilities, psionics or spells, however you want to roll them out in the game, and you're only coming up with one or two of them. Like, I think I have maybe 10 psionic disciplines done up for Starfinder, but then
Star Frontiers, yeah.
Star Frontiers. But then as more I introduce a new villain with one or two extra powers, now I'll fill that in, and you see how the thing has grown with all the
yeah. If you've ever seen, I mean, if you're on Hal's Discord, it's a great Discord channel too. That if you can get into his notes on Star Frontiers, they're massive. I mean, you could do a supplement just on what he's done to convert Star Frontiers to the fast system. Really, really well done. He talks to me a lot about it, so we go back and forth on if there's a rule he's got a question on. But he's gotten really good at it, and that's an extensive rule set if you ever wanted to use one. And like I said, like you said, it's a lot. It's work up front, and it is good to build small. But it's one of the things I'm looking at too when I do my fast and freeze, which are on YouTube. Like I've done Krull and Stormbringer and Conan, and then you do. I'm going to do Starship Troopers, which we did a lot of. I'm just going to try to continue to go through there, and at least in those, I can give you notes or a base that you can start from, and then modify as your system gets bigger and bigger, and you have more questions and stuff that come up, and then you add those things in. Because when Hal first did Star Frontiers, it was a lot smaller. But the more he plays, the bigger it gets because he can add more stuff in. Yeah, and it really, really, really works.
And yeah. What's nice, and you know, I played Star Frontiers circa 1980, and I played Star Frontiers fast. And what's not really nice, because Star Frontiers is limited with what is out there. You know, they got a handful of adventure modules. They've got the Nighthawks expansion, and then I think there's like a magazine called the Frontiersman or something like that that's been running that has some nice stuff in it. But I really enjoy the fast stuff, how it's easy to just roll new weapons and stuff in. We're getting off the trail of magic, but it's the same principle as rolling in, you know, magic items. And I would encourage people to open their eyes to looking at combining spell effects with items to roll out unusual and unique items. You know, for my what I'm doing, it's high technology, and you know, and that explains why this particular item can do whatever magic spell it is. You know, and I think it's a nice way to kind of really open up the book on what you can put on the table for your players to discover and learn how to use.
Well, it's definitely some. I mean, fast and design. I know R. Jones here is talking about Savage Worlds, and you know, I think Savage Worlds. You know, if I had to credit anything with a lot of the stuff I did, it comes out of that. Just the ease of play in Savage Worlds. And Shane, I remember at Gen Con telling me that you know, I said Savage Worlds is great, and he said, well, it's only great because I want to be a lazy DM. And I always thought that was really, really funny. But with the limited time amounts that we have, obviously it's nice to have a system that is easy for everyone, especially the DM. And I think that's one of the things that works not only in the magic system, especially when you're creating enemies, because you're only dealing with light, medium, and heavy. You can customize that and take as much time as you want, or you can do it very, very quickly. And that's what you're looking at with it. And Palladium is funny. I played Palladium, obviously, because I played the hell out of Robotech. So I played a lot of Palladium systems. I've done Heroes Unlimited, you know, as well, and played Heroes and stuff out of that, as well as Marvel superheroes. But it's interesting to see now. I know Hal is looking at some point here playing a superhero campaign, and we touched on it a little bit with our little Marvel campaign that we played. But it's interesting in expanding that out with and even using Heroes Unlimited, because when you're looking at superpower campaigns, that's another thing too. Always start small if you can, because you can always expand those systems. A lot of people are like, I want to see 380 superpowers. No, that would kill you. if you're trying to make that pre-adventure. So you start out with just a little, the things I've given in the main book, a little super strength, a little super speed, a little something. And then as the thing goes and you make new villains or new heroes, you can add those things up, or read a new comic and see a character you like that had a unique superpower, create that in the fast system. Very, very easy to use. Like Hal said, Legos. It's just you can just kind of pop those things in.
I think one of the bigger things for when superhero thing rolls out and expands a little bit is going to be the need for a system to randomly generate and randomly give people superpowers. Like, I like the idea of being able to say, okay, well, this is the superhero I have in my mind, and then now I build it. But I think there's also a need for people to be able to sit down and just throw some dice out and that, and they walk out with a hero that can control plants and teleport. And
I think that's also an interesting point too for something. If you use Gamma World,
yes,
people like to generate mutants.
Yes,
let's just see what happens. So yeah, I mean those are two big charts that you could see as well. It's funny. Heroes Unlimited. Every hero needed to pack a gun. Maybe. I don't remember that. It's been so long, but that's a funny statement.
It's true. They really did, because your blast and stuff did like 2d6 points of damage or something like that when you're shooting your blast out. But a gun would do 4d6. So, and then you could shoot them in bursts and stuff. It was like, yo, you put those laser eyes away and buy yourself a pistol. Yeah.
That's one way to do it. Full clip. There, time Tim's damn. I forgot times 10 damn it. I'm getting so old, damn it. I forget stuff like that. Yeah, it's roll at the times 10. Just blast somebody. Right. Very, very true.
I love the Palladium system. And actually I'm doing a convention in January, and the people from Palladium are going to be there. So I'll get to meet some of them. That should be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm sure it would. I've got a couple of my books. I think Symbi, I've met him before at Gen Con and stuff like that for Robotech. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But it's also interesting to see if we can get more people, involved in bringing fast to their table. And that's why we're doing these things, just so we can talk about it and give you some experience in what we're talking about, and give you an option to go back and forth with us too, and also tell me if there's this particular system that you'd like to see converted or see something like that, or how I would play it, because it's always fun for me to look at stuff, because I've got these massive shelves of games, and it's like, which one do I do next or something like that. So yeah, right. I don't know how to spell his name. That's just me throwing it out there. But yeah, Kevin, how about that? Can we do that?
He's a good guy, man. I called him up and talked to him on the phone maybe a year or so ago when I was first looking for a system to do my heroes thing on. And he was basically like, no, there's no way in hell we want whatever you're doing incorporated into the Heroes Unlimited brand. But, like, instead of just saying that and being like, see you later, the guy talked to me on the phone for about an hour, and I just called him up. I was Jack from he didn't know me from a can of paint. The guy spent an hour talking to me on the phone, man. Nicest guy you ever want to meet. Talk to me about the business. Talk to me about Palladium, all this kind of stuff. I can't say enough great about the guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to not touching the stuff, but that's one of the funny stories that people don't know, that Hal kept coming to me, and he was really, really looking to make adventures and make stuff and use some of his IP. And he was like, you gotta make a role-playing game. I was like, no. And he was like, he just keep coming back. You got to play a role-playing game so I can use it. You got to make a role-play. So that is how Fast came about, is that I took all the stuff that I kind of thought about or worked with over the course of many, many years and thought, okay, Hal really needs this to play superheroes. I don't know what you were playing at the time. It was Liberty. Maybe it was your superheroes you wanted to use.
It was originally the superhero game. That we could, put something out there. I would have a place to put Liberty out there.
Right.
But then there's the science fiction and all that kind of stuff stirring around too. So the hero game is, as soon as I drop this next Kickstarter, this miniatures Kickstarter, the grotesque workshop of Grimlick's Godcocker. As soon as I drop that, which should be in another week or two, maybe longer now that I have my memory story debacle, but 2 or 3 weeks, let's say, I'm going right back into the hero game. As I already got a working title, and it should be absolutely
The
outstanding.
hero game is going to be an adventure, right?
Yeah.
Because the workshop is not. It's just miniatures, or is it an adventure?
No, the adventure, the Grimlicks is straight up miniatures.
Miniatures.
Yeah, straight up miniatures. They're going to be based. All the miniatures are based on the last book, but there's no new role playing source material coming out with it. But the Heroes book is going to be the first in what I hope to be as a series of books. But people are going to come and burn me at a stake if I don't come out with the third Tales of the Warlock book. So that's right after the Heroes book. That's what I'm going to be dropping.
Well, it's interesting too, because one of the things we've talked about looking at heroes, because we've gone back and forth, because he's been designing these heroes for a long time, and it was one of the things that we looked at, especially when we played heroes, just testing it. We were doing Marvel versions of a lot of stuff, but was healing, and that's one of the things that we had to come in and make a new rule set kind of for fast, a heroes edition on how heroes can. Because not everybody is a healer, right? So, but heroes seem to be able to take more damage or recover from damage faster than a normal human being most of the time. So how does that work? And that's something that we should have directly in your stuff, Hal, is our new rule sets and what we've talked about, like the heroic recovery and stuff like that, because it's hugely important. Yeah,
it definitely is. But there again is the beauty of fast. Like if you're like, hey, you know what, we need something in here. It's real easy to take a kernel from another part of the rule set and adapt it and do a quick change so that it fits whatever that gap is that you're needing to fill. Absolutely great.
Right. Because it's one of the things we looked at when we were looking at Star Frontiers. We're like, well, they have medics, doctors, med packs, all these things that you could have in a hero setting, but typically you're not going to have night nurse running around after you trying to heal you up. So what does Batman do other than maybe take a shot of adrenaline or something if he needs it? If he's gonna, how does he get through stuff like that? So that's one of the things we had to address with the fast system specifically, which wouldn't necessarily work in D&D fast, because you've got clerics, right? You've got druids, you've got a lot of people you got potions. So I mean, there's a lot of things you can do in that. So that's one of the thoughts behind it. We got Lane's talking about heroes and champions. I've never played champions, so I don't know, but there's another D6 system that reminds me of old Shadowrun D6 system, and then there's of course Star Wars D6 West End games.
West End,
yeah.
I did the Marvel game when it came out for TSR. I played the DC game and Palladium, but Palladium was always my dark horse. That was my go-to for any kind of a hero system. Right.
When I played Heroes, hero worlds that we designed ourselves, we always used Palladium. And then, of course, if we were looking to just play Punisher or something, you'd crack out the old Marvel superheroes game and do that. But yeah, but that's a long time ago, man. That's a lot of water under the bridge for me. 80s is a long damn time ago now.
When I'm rolling out these hero books, like each one will kind of the same plan with the Tales of the Warlock series. Each one kind of sits in itself, and it's going to build the world up to be a little bit bigger place, a little bit bigger place, a little bit bigger place. And I want people to be able to pick the book up and say, okay, well, this is the start of my hero world. Or I want them to say, you know what, I want to fit this into the Marvel series that I'm running. So let me change the name from, this city to that. Or I want to play this in the DC world. And because fast is so malleable, people should be able to port over Batman or Superman or whoever relatively easy.
Right. I mean, if you and the nice thing about if you're porting stuff, there's so much stuff that's available online because these characters have been
Yep.
statted on so many different games over
Yep.
the past 40 years that you can just go online, type in Batman stats, or Superman stats or Spider-Man stats, and you're going to find a million of them that'll probably pop up and give you at least a list of their base abilities that you can then look for and and port over. And something like that. And it's a good way you're talking about that, Hal, too. This is especially something for any GMs that are watching this or are looking to play fast. Again, start small. When you do something like that, it's one of the things that I did when I put out the core book. When I did the 3 settings, they're very, very small in the aspect of just a few blocks of a city or one castle that you're going to be looking at. So you can start in that very, very compacted area, and then you can, once you get the feel of that little node, you can start to expand out. One of the things I did recently when I was working in a High Garin City, which is just the block, when we'd worked on that for a long time, me and the play testers, and then this in August again when we went in and looked at that, I got them out of the city for the first time, totally not expecting it, and was able to run something very Raiders of the Lost Ark-esque, where they were on a train, and then they were on a plane, and then they were on a boat, and then they had to go across the desert, and they got to a pyramid, but all this stuff playing in that kind of Indiana Jones-esque, because it takes place kind of in this 20s, this ultimate fantasy noir 20s thing. So it was a lot of fun, and it was a great time to start expanding that out and letting them see other parts of the world that they'd heard about from their little block, but they'd never seen before. So just having that ability to start small, get comfortable, and then move out is so huge. Especially when you're using the fast system for the first time, because your players are learning it, you're learning it as the DM. So you don't want to have a minutia of stuff that's going to overwhelm people. You're just going to want to, slowly bring in different parts, and the magic systems, especially like that, because like you said, it seems very simple if only 4 quads, and it can be, but that's an awful lot of rope to hang yourself with if you don't know what you're doing as a DM, because all of a sudden somebody's like, throwing crazy spells or something out, and you're like, ooh, hadn't pre-planned for that. Like, I didn't want that so early or something like that. So you want to make sure you go in and understand the system and how you want to tailor it to your setting or your campaign or what you're specifically doing, because it can get away from you quickly, for sure.
I think that the first couple of adventures, especially with fast, are the most critical adventures. It gets people, because chances are, if you're sitting down at a table and you're running a fast game, and you're the exception to this rule, Scott, but nobody else knows what the hell fast is.
Yeah, right.
Everybody that sits around at your table has developed it, but
Right.
everybody else, like when I'm rolling this out on Roll20, people are like, fast, okay, they have the books, but they haven't actually played the game and see how it works and things like that. So, you have to really pay attention to those early games so that they can learn the real basic fundamentals. How the defensive threshold works, how the wound threshold works, how it works when you take the wounds, and all that kind of stuff. It's real simple, but you need a few. Let's fight the rats encounter. Let's kill the goblin encounter. Let's whatever, something easy to get
Right.
people to get their feet wet.
And it's one of the reasons that I designed it the way it was too. One encounter, or your first encounter, I should say, is a level. So that's going to initially give characters or people the ability not only to build that character, but also see very quickly how it increases when they go up levels. And then obviously it slows as you go up, as anything does. But that first encounter is so important. And then it's important for them to understand how their character can grow.
Yes.
Yeah. So Lane, I see you've got something here where it says, so far I have a basic character, but she seems like a decent character as a security specialist. Is that in Fast? Is that something you've done, Lane? If you could answer that, that'd be great. And what kind of setting do you have? I mean, is that security? I assume it's science fiction in some fashion, but
He's from my Roll20 Starfinder group.
Star Frontiers. It's not Star.
I played Starfinder for so long, I keep calling Starfinder. Yeah, thank God I'm not playing that anymore. Oh my God.
Right. Yeah. So, well, that's cool. So he's one of your players. In the war. Lucky you. Yeah.
So what his thing is, and what's nice is I always say, like, all right, well, tell me your character concept, and then let's build the rules around them. So he had a character concept that he came to the table with, and we plugged him in. I think he ended up going with a combat archetype, and we make use of the class system that you rolled out in the supplement, the compendium.
Yeah.
So what I did was, instead of using them straight out of the book to keep the Star Frontiers flavor to it, I took all of their PSAs, their primary skill areas, and I took those PSAs and I just put whatever was the closest of those areas in it, because basically it breaks down to whatever kit gave people two secondary skills.
Right.
So I was able to kind of fill those in, and then so he picked out a security specialist from one of those, and then just plugged it in and fleshed his character out with the skills and fated traits, and it is a lovely thing.
Right. So Lane, you guys are down in the caves, is that right? Is that where you guys are right now on the first adventure, the crash on Volturnus? Isn't that the first one? Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. And it's interesting. I don't want to lose my train of thought here, but on those builds, I mean, that was one of the important things that I wanted to do within the compendium. It was make sure that we had more customization within those kits, because I think those kits are important. And this is what I wanted to tell you also, Hal, because I don't think you've ever seen it. I've been working for a couple weeks now on a redesign of the character sheet, which doesn't sound important, but it can be really important because it's one of the things that I found. So when I work on Fast 2, which is funny, when I say start small, then you grow, right? So we're even, if you do that in a campaign setting, that's one thing. But when I made Fast, then it grows, right? I started small, and then I try to grow off of it with a compendium or something like that. But one of the things that I've seen that I thought was a little too crunchy when I initially made the game was that you would go up to whatever your max is in your skill. Your primary skill is 9. Let's say you max out in it, and then that's where you're at. But Hal has talked to me a lot back and forth concerning bonuses and different things that can be involved in that. And we've gone back and forth. I'm like, well, if you have a bonus of a fated trait that gives you a bonus in your ranged combat or something like that, you can very quickly get to that 9, right, which is the max.
Yeah.
And then you're done. Or if you wanted to, and you want to make sure those were broken out, those bonuses, and keep your ability low, the true ability, right? Let's say it starts at 6 and you move up to 7, you're like 7.6 or something on a remainder, but you're technically at 9 with your bonuses, then that makes a difference. And I was like, well, does it not? But one of the things I did on this new character sheet was break that out into like 6 or 7 categories on the character sheet, so you can see exactly what your base skill is, what all these bonuses or negatives might be, and then you've got something called, I think, like a real skill or something, which might be 13, right? Or I don't know, it could be something very much higher. But that does make a difference, because that can take away negatives on the flow chart of how things hit. So if you've got negatives they've got cover, or they've got other things that might be giving you negatives, then, and you've got 3 bonus points above 9, those make a difference. Then all of a sudden you're back to much easier to hit than just being a base 9. So that's going to be in the sheet, which is really important.
That'd be nice.
And it should make a difference when you play. Yeah.
That'd be nice to see.
Right.
Yeah. And also to like I found a couple times my characters will pick things up. I say when you get the skill or you get a anything that adds to an attribute, add it in right away. So you get dangerous beauty, increase your performance skill right away.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I'm playing with new players and they forget things and they write stuff down on their sheet. They don't do the addition and stuff. And now you're saying to yourself, well, wait a minute, their skill seems a little low. Did they add this in there? And it gets lost in with the regular D10 remainders that they get up every level. So it would be
Right.
nice to have a separate area where you can put the skill bonuses and stuff like that so you can keep track of them. That is
Right.
yeah.
It's a good thing, and then you don't lose points somewhere, because it's much easier to check. How do I have that bonus in? What's this 1.5 bonus that I've got? Oh, and I've got them broken down. So it's like ability score. That's where you get a bonus or negative. Faded trait. That's where you get a bonus or a negative. Magic item. That's where you get so they're all in there. So you can see exactly how you get to that number. I'm really anxious to get that sheet out. I hope it's going to be done in the next couple of days because it's really, really close now. But it's sharp. So I think it'll help. Yeah.
People see the 3 attributes and they think, well, there's not a lot to character creation in fast, but that's wrong. There's a lot that goes in there with the skills and with the fated traits. Just meshing those 2 around and the archetypes, you blend all those 3 things in and really come up with whatever kind of character that you're looking for. And then there's the supplemental rules for hero games, kung fu games, all that kind of stuff. Cyber games that even takes it up another level. The kits was a big expansion because one of the things I was like, I really wish my character had more skills when I was playing in your D&D campaign. I'm like,
yeah,
I wish I had some more skills. And now here comes kits along, dropping 2 more skills on people, which is great because it gives them skills in the area that they need to play that class. And it frees up other skills that they can put into areas that will flesh out their character.
Right. Making the character like I have to get this because I'm this, but I'd like to expand my character and have them have a hobby. Well, not that they're in a hobby skill, but have other skills that make sense. I want riding or something like that you didn't have the ability to get before because your skills were so limited. You're right. And it's funny when you look at the first generation of Fast when I initially did my play tests, there were only 2 statistics. And I remember when I sent it out to people outside of my group to take a look at it, initially somebody came back and said, you can't do 2. You at least got to do 3. So that's where resilience came from. And it made a huge difference. What a great, great suggestion on the back. I can't remember who suggested it, but it was so perfect. And it made a big difference to the way that the campaign, the way that the game worked, because resilience is a huge factor because it adds into your the overall wound threshold. So that's a big deal because initially wound threshold was just like, I think it was a divider off of your physical, and it was like, well, wizards suck. They have no wound threshold, but it's like now you can mitigate that a little bit by having a wizard that might not have a high physical, but they could have a really high resilience. So their wound threshold is still up. So they're not getting just pummeled all the time.
Yep. All right. Well, you know what? We're at 7:15. I think we started a little bit past 6 because of the thing.
We started at 6:30. Yeah. So we're about 45 minutes. Yeah.
So, I'm thinking, what do you think? Like 7 o'clock is it good if we do 6 to 7?
Yeah, on a normal Friday. Is that what you, yeah. Because obviously we're trying to get this together today to make sure it worked. And
Friday wouldn't be good because I normally am playing guitar this time. But a different day would be what we could do.
Yeah, we'll just try to get one of these out a week to people. So, and obviously we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. We've kind of got a list of what we want to talk about. Not everything has to be fast, of course. It's just what is on our minds at any particular time and how we play different scenarios and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's, that sounds good. This is this is our first test. So, and we got a couple people in. Thank you guys for coming in and talking to us about it. We appreciate it. but otherwise, yeah, we can end it here, and then we'll get back to you guys in a week whenever we have a more settled day that we want to have our session. Sound good, Hal?
That sounds good, and I'll talk to Zimlord and see what is involved, what would be involved in getting it on our Discords, and see if there's a link. I'll let them play with the stuff. But I mean, worst case scenario, which doesn't seem like a worst case scenario, is we'll just say, "Hey, it's playing," and put the link on our Discord. You know, I mean,
Right.
if people can get in here and it looks like they don't have any trouble talking, Lane was talking the whole time. R. Jones was talking.
Right.
So people obviously can interact with us. And we put the link in here, and it is what it is. It's done. Bam.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we will sign out from our first stream. But thank you guys for coming over. Hopefully, we'll see you again.
See you guys
And,
the next mysterious time we launch this this show.
Right. And as always, great gaming. So we'll talk to you guys later.
Amen. Bye-bye.